Aloha and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jake, and on this episode of Ink Cinema, we're talking The Little Mermaid. As I recap and review this movie, I'll be carving a linocut of Ariel. I'm also going to be trying out a new method, cyanotype, using the power of the sun to print Ariel right into the middle of the piece. Stick around to the end to see how it turns out. Directed by Rob Marshall, The Little Mermaid is a charming, playful movie that packs in a careful balance of nostalgia and modernity. I don't think I really need to recap this movie since, girl, it's a tale as old as time. So let's move on to my review, and I'll fill you in on any differences from the 1989 animated classic. The Little Mermaid was released on May 26, 2023, and has made currently $217 million worldwide on a $95 million opening. It's sitting at 68% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 95% audience score and has received a cinema score of A. Watching the movie was a joyful, exciting experience. It drew me in quickly and transported me straight back to my childhood in the best way. That score gets me every time. It feels so familiar and filled with nothing but good memories. The CGI in these live-action remakes is usually off the wall because, hi, real fish don't talk, but I gotta say, this was one of the more convincing adaptations. The world felt real, and so did the animals, even if that means sacrificing the cuteness of Flounder for this. The most dazzling scene was, of course, Under the Sea, and Andrew made this point after we saw it. They used a ton of endangered species in that number. Yes, they might have been unrealistically kickball changing, but it was cool to get a glimpse into how beautiful it is down there. As always, a ton of studios worked on the visual effects for this one, including Industrial Light and Magic. The underwater part of it all never took me out of it too much, but according to Andrew, there were some questionable hair physics moments where the hair was stiff or didn't follow, the natural laws of gravity. But none of this would have been possible without the one, the only, Aquaman. Oh yes, so much criticism when this movie was released about the visuals. Whatever you think about that movie as a whole, you can't deny that they paved the way for live-action underwater scenes. Live action in quotes, that is, right, live action. Now, I got a bone to pick with the hair department real quick. First of all, I loved the styling. Both underwater and on the surface, her hair always looked great, no matter how much I despise that headband she wears. I love that dreads were mixed into her hair, but what I don't really love is the color. I know we're going for realism in this movie, but Ariel specifically is known for her bright red hair. Bright being the key word. We could have gone brighter while still keeping it natural. It came off more as orange to me, in most of the scenes. That's just my opinion. I have no idea how they shot most of this movie. I haven't been in enough of those types of editing rooms, but I would love to see the raw footage they had to work with, because I did see one clip and Halle was full on writing a human portraying a turtle, crawling along to the beat. I need to see more of that, Now let's go through the cast, saving Halle for last. Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Her tribute to Pat Carroll was impressive. Rewatching the original the other day, it reminded me just how good Pat played her back in the day. She's unparalleled. Melissa's acting has only gotten better as she's progressed in her career, and this was a really cool role to see her in. With that said, I couldn't take my eyes off her hideous makeup. Just a mess. I'm glad the VFX said, let's make all of her scenes dark as fuck, because at least that could give her some mystery and make up for that slathered on eyeshadow. Secondly, they should have hired a drag queen, since Ursula is literally based off of one in the first place. If we're remaking a classic in the modern day, let's modernize. My pick, Jinx Monsoon. She would have been incredible. Just the laugh alone. And she's about to play a villain in Doctor Who, so, iconic. I think Melissa was the right choice if not casting a drag queen was the way to go, that you were gonna go, which is the way they did go. But I would have at least liked to see a queer person doing her makeup. My God. Lord Jesus, get a gay man in there. Beat her up. Her face, that is. David Diggs as Sebastian stole the whole fucking show. Not only does this guy know how to entertain, in all caps, he won a Tony for his performance in Hamilton, but he knows how to make us laugh. Every time there was a slow moment, there was Sebastian to give us a breath of fresh air. I found myself laughing at him more in this one than I did rewatching the original. Awkwafina as Scuttle. Love the change of the type of bird to one that dives in the water. That's cool. As for Awkwafina, she was Awkwafina. We have a love-hate relationship with Nora, but considering Scuttle is supposed to be annoying, she slayed. Let's be honest, she slayed. She played the role, she did it right. And I know she slayed because of how different this character felt from her other Disney voice performance as Sisu in Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, as for her being featured in songs, who gave this girl a mic? That's the real question. I thought her rapping days were over, and all we were going to keep from that was the stage name. That's right. She did away with the rapping, and she finally did away with the blacks.
Roll up to that wedding, you gonna be like, "Bok bok, bitch."
But we're keeping the name, and apparently keeping the rapping. Jessica Alexander as Vanessa said, "Give me 5 minutes, and I'll give you the performance of a lifetime." They should honestly create a new Oscar category that awards the best actor under, say, 21 lines of dialogue. There are no small roles, only small actors. And Jessica ain't one of them. Jonah Howard King, oh Lord. This man had me licking my lips during a children's movie. The dimples, the eyes, his sideways walk. Oh, he got me good. He's exactly what I pictured Prince Eric to look like, and I'm glad we got at least one wet shirtless scene out of him. He had solid chemistry with Halle. That had me rooting for them. I thought he played intense, rebellious, compassionate prince really well. Halle Bailey as Ariel. Halle is the movie. She was born to be a princess, and you can tell how much her kind essence radiates not only on screen, but off. Her voice is unbelievably beautiful, and just like a siren song, grabs a hold of the audience and never lets go. It still doesn't make sense to me why people were so upset about a black woman being cast as Ariel, since the character is a fictional creature. Anything goes. But it still boggles my mind that even after the release, the racist saga continues, as movie review sites got bombarded with bot reviews, which led iMDB to have to change their review policy. Just ridiculous. I don't know what the loud minority has to be upset about, considering the act of being more inclusive and diverse has absolutely no impact on their life. It's beautiful to think that little black girls all over the world can look to Halle's Ariel and see themselves. All this outrage goes to show that even despite an incredible performance by Halle, a person of color at the top of her game, it'll never be good enough. Well, it's more than good enough for me. Halle was vibrant, magical, and full of wonder. Exactly who Ariel should be. This is only the beginning for her. Girl, what a start. And I can't wait to see what role she'll take on next. I also love that they played the Color Purple trailer right before the movie. The music of this film played a huge part in the success of the original, and honestly, all the Disney movies of the 90s. With music by Alan Menken and lyrics by Howard Ashman, it truly is one of the most iconic soundtracks of all time. And for Disney, the soundtrack that changed it all. Alan Menken is a Disney hitmaker, with some of his other works including Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Enchanted, and Tangled. An extremely talented musician, and honestly, a pillar of a lot of our childhoods and the melodies that filled them. Howard Ashman is responsible for the intoxicating lyrics forever cemented in our heads. As it's Pride Month, I find it important to mention that Howard was a gay man who died of AIDS in 1991 at the height of the HIV/AIDS crisis, just 2 years after the release of The Little Mermaid. a movie that would go on to inspire several other 90s movies that collectively formed the golden age of Disney, or as some call it, the Disney Renaissance. This makes total sense. I mean, look at the material, people. When's it my turn? Wouldn't I love to explore that shore up above? Out of the sea? Wish I could be part of that world. The end of his life parallels Jonathan Larson's, who passed away on the first night of previews for his show that went on to become a huge hit, Rent. Howard started working with Alan Menken at the WPA Theater in New York City, and the pair went on to write Little Shop of Horrors. That was a hit on both Broadway and the silver screen in the 80s. Howard moved to Hollywood to start working on a new project for Disney, and they allowed him to bring Alan along. This was during Disney's dark period, where they knew they needed a smash hit production to bring them back to life. Howard brought in a fresh perspective. It was Howard's idea to make Sebastian have a Jamaican accent as opposed to an English one, and Ursula was to be based on Baltimore drag icon Divine. Part of Your World almost didn't make it into the final cut. Executives wanted to cut it as it didn't test well with children, but Howard and his colleagues pushed back and said it was vital to Ariel's arc. With the help of his fellow artists, they won the battle. The movie then went on to win 2 Oscars, including one for Howard and Alan's Under the Sea. But in the middle of production, Howard was diagnosed with AIDS. His sister said, "I think the work really did keep him going and kept him believing and almost willing him to continue on and to live." That right there already makes this movie more important than we may think on face value. This man poured his life and soul into this movie, working alongside collaborators who had no idea what he was going through behind the scenes. Before his death at age 40, he worked on Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. He wouldn't be there to accept it, but in 1992, the pair won the Oscar for a second time for Beauty and the Beast. His longtime partner, Bill, accepted the award gracefully and gave a beautiful speech. This is the first Academy Award given to someone we've lost to AIDS. Howard's lyrics have echoed through the lives of so many. He didn't get to live long enough to grasp the impact of his legacy and his work, but I know he's watching from above, smiling down on us. With the help of his friend Alan Menken, Howard Ashman single-handedly saved Disney. Without him, Disney wouldn't be what it is today. If you'd like to learn more about Howard Ashman, you can catch the documentary Howard, now streaming on Disney+. Let's talk about the new additions to this year's remake. 4 new songs were written for this, and lyrics were changed in Kiss the Girl and Poor Unfortunate Souls. Now that you know how important Howard was to the language of The Little Mermaid, I don't like that they changed lyrics. It's one thing to put in a new song, but it's weird to alter the lyrics to the original song. I get the idea of updating lyrics for modern times, but if you're gonna do a remake, there are certain things we probably shouldn't change, especially when the man who wrote the lyrics isn't around to give his input. If you want to try new things, then write a completely new movie. But they're gonna do whatever they want. Just my opinion. The 4 new songs were written by Alan Menken with the help of Disney's favorite fresh voice, Lin-Manuel Miranda. I never know what this man is going to throw at me. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's cringe. Wild uncharted waters let Prince Eric live his best Zac Efron bet-on-it fantasy. They really had this man running around the whole fucking island just yelling in tune. Yeah, I mean, he sounded great, but yeah, we didn't need it. The scuttlebutt? Just know, the rap was actually really well written, and I loved seeing David rap, but throw in Aquafina, and I was thinking, cut, stop the roll. The only new song I enjoyed was For the First Time, sung of course by Halle. The addition made sense story-wise, and I loved hearing Halle sing something completely original and unique to this production. The 4th song never made it to the final cut and was called Impossible Child, sung by King Triton. Including this unreleased song, none of these songs were necessary. They didn't give us more context or teach us something. They were just there. The score was pure magic. I mean, it's Menken, but hearing an updated score on a modern orchestra is something I can't even describe. in words. The Little Mermaid is a glittery, enchanting live-action remake with a cast and soundtrack that jumps right off the page and straight into uncharted waters. Get it? If you were into this video, I got plenty more where that came from. Check out past episodes right over there. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ink Cinema. My name is Jake Okoa, and may the power protect you always. I'll see you next time. Bye.